What's up everybody? Welcome back to another weekly update. In this video, I'm going to be talking about weeks 14 and 15. We're going to be talking about how many times I flew during those weeks, what I did during those flights, and my overall thoughts and any pieces of advice, if I have any. You're used to the drill if you've been watching my videos by now. To the channel, if you are new here, my name is Luke. I'm a private pilot working on my instrument rating at ATP Flight School. The whole goal of my channel is to document my journey towards becoming an airline pilot, to help and inspire others on their journey, as well as provide aviation content in general because it's what I enjoy doing. If you find value in any of these videos, I'd appreciate a subscribe and let me know in the comments what types of video you want me to do next. Now, a quick disclaimer, some of you have been confused. Right now, when I'm filming this video, we are in July. I'm actually endorsed to take my instrument Checkride. The flights I'm going to be discussing in this video actually happened a few weeks ago, so these weekly updates aren't quite up to date. By the time you actually watch this video, it might be in August. I try to post a video every few days so you can get consistent content from me. You don't get bombarded with tons of weekly updates every few weeks. Now, if you are considering going to flight school or you are currently in flight school, I have links in the description to all the pilot products, gear, and study materials I use if you click on any of those, so I appreciate that. Now, as far as weeks 14 and 15 at ATP, or weeks 3 and 4 of my instrument training at ATP, we flew about 8 times. I actually did 2 other flights that were outside of ATP as well. We did more cross-country flights where we're flying from our home airport to another airport usually over 50 nautical miles away, where we are practicing different types of approaches and different types of holds. So we're using VORs, we're using the GPS. And if you're not familiar with what instrument training is, when I say an approach, what I mean is we're using the different systems and instruments in our airplane to give us lateral and vertical guidance to guide all the way down to right above the runway. So that way, if we ever were in clouds or in instrument meteorological conditions, it's the same thing saying you're in clouds pretty much. You can use these instrument approaches to have that guidance all the way down to the runway and break out of the clouds and then make a safe landing. This instrument flying is what you're going to be doing every single day when you're an airline pilot. You are on an instrument flight plan. So it's pretty cool to see how everything works. One of the flights we did do during this period was our 250 nautical mile cross country flight, so that was super fun. If you're not familiar with what the 250 nautical mile cross country requirement is, I'll read it right here, and this is coming from the FAR AIM 6165. It says, instrument flight training on cross country flight procedures, including one cross country flight in an airplane with an authorized instructor that is performed under instrument flight rules when a flight plan has been filed with an air traffic control facility, and that involves a flight of 250 nautical miles along airways or by directed routing from an air traffic control facility, an instrument approach at each airport, and 3 different kinds of approaches with the use of navigation systems. We were able to do that flight during these weeks. It was fun. It was the farthest flight I've ever done in my flight training. We flew from Ogden, Utah, I think, to Pocatello, Idaho, which was fun. There wasn't much up at the airport, but it was fun to actually feel like you're flying somewhere, not just staying in the practice area and doing maneuvers. We got out of the plane, we got some fuel, we went into the FBO, and we had some free hot chocolate. The snacks weren't free at this one though. They only had hot chocolate and water and coffee for free. But it was still fun. Nonetheless, we flew back as well. And it was cool to actually be talking to air traffic control the whole time on an instrument flight plan and getting that experience. Out here in Utah where I'm doing my instrument training, a lot of the minimum altitudes that you need to be at if you want to be on an instrument flight plan are too high for our little small Cessnas. So we end up doing VFR flights while the instructor is simulating being air traffic control and giving us routing and directions and things like that. Whereas in the real world, you're on an instrument flight plan and air traffic control is the one who's actually directing you and routing you and giving you your clearances and everything like that. Once you're in instrument training, it will make a lot more sense. Now, something I forgot to mention too is the very first flight I did during weeks 14 and 15 was my instrument progress eval. So what this is basically a midterm exam in your instrument training. So they want to see how you're progressing throughout your instrument training, if you're at where you should be. And it was definitely stressful. I passed it, barely. Thank heavens. But I definitely did not do super well on this flight, and a lot of that was on me. It wasn't anything my instructor did. I just wasn't on my A game. I was stressed because I was flying with a lead instructor. But we flew to one airport, we did some holds on the way, and then we did an instrument approach at that airport. We came back and we did an instrument approach at our home airport. And he gave me the holding instructions. I messed it up, but luckily before I actually entered into the hold, I realized my mistake, I redrew it, and then I drew the correct type of entry. I messed something up on my initial approach. I believe it was the initial approach fix to the final approach fix. You were on a certain heading, but once you hit your final approach fix, the heading actually changed just a few degrees, and I didn't catch that. So that was something I messed up on, but I did end up passing, so then I was able to go on and do the other flights that I've already talked about. Now, we did these flights, and then as far as what comes after these flights, we basically go into Checkride prep. So we start preparing for my Checkride, as well as doing a lot more of simulator sessions. That's something also to note. During your instrument training, you're doing a lot of simulator sessions, but it's actually good because when you're flying the airplane, all you're looking at is your instruments, and when you're in a simulator, you have all the exact same type of instruments in front of you. So it actually is pretty beneficial doing those simulators. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing in this video. I appreciate you watching. Again, I have those links in the description if you need any pilot gear or anything like that. Thank you for your support, and safe flying.